بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions for His sake alone. MashaAllah. Let's continue from where we left off last time with a short review. We were speaking in the book of Sheikh Abdullah Umdatul Raghib. We were speaking about a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was narrated by At-Tirmidhi, as you can see here. He said what means that the human being will utter a word, a statement, that he does not deem harmful, but that same statement will land him 70 years into the depths of hell. He will fall for 70 years. And this is a place that is specifically only for the non-Muslims, which tells us that this statement that he uttered is a type of statement that makes one exit al-Islam. And it's not one specific statement, rather it's a type of statement, and many different examples come under this type of statement. It is any statement that belittles Allah or the religion of Islam or anything that Allah gave a high status to, or it's a statement that belies a rule in the religion in Islam that a person knows. Like to say, pork is halal to eat. This makes a person a non-Muslim. Or if a person says that it is halal, permissible, okay, good to drink alcohol, then this person falls out of al-Islam. Whether they intended to leave al-Islam or not, they become a non-Muslim. So this is what Shaykh Abdullah, what our Shaykh was speaking about. And this very hadith then he began speaking about, and he said, as it says, قال المؤلف رحمه الله وهذا الحديث, this saying of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, دليل لا إله. He said هذا وهذا الحديث دليل على أنه لا يشترط في الوقوع في الكفر على أنه لا يشترط في الوقوع في الكفر معرفة الحكم. This hadith, because of its wording, okay, what's understood from it is that for a person to fall into kufr, for a person to be judged as a kafir, for a person to be judged as a non-Muslim, it's not a condition that they know the judgment of that statement. It's not a condition that, well, in order for them to become a kafir, they have to know that this statement makes them a kafir. No. This hadith is a proof that it is not a condition to fall into kufr to know the judgment of the statement. Meaning what? That a person might say a statement that is a kufr one. And they didn't know, Islamically, they didn't know that this statement renders them to be a non-Muslim. And they said it, right. So how are we going to judge them now? As long as they understood the statement, okay, and they said it willingly, then even if they don't know that it makes them a kafir, it makes them a kafir. Now here you see the importance of knowledge. Let's say there was a person who knew that a statement was kufr, and they said it. Like, for example, they said that alcohol is halal, and they know it's haram, but they said alcohol is halal to drink. Now such a person, he knows this is a kufr statement, so but he still said it, understanding what it means. This person becomes a non-Muslim, right? But then this person, because he knows that he's become a non-Muslim, what can he do now knowingly? He can repent by embracing al-Islam again, by saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So he can re-embrace al-Islam. This shows you the merit of knowledge, that this person knew he shouldn't have committed kufr in the first place, of course. But because he knew the judgment of that statement, he was able to save himself from remaining upon blasphemy. Allah revealed in the Quran, لا يرضى لعباده الكفر. Allah does not accept, does not approve of blasphemy for his slaves, for people and the jinn. So this hadith is proof that it's not a condition to fall into kufr that you have to know the judgment first. Because if that was the case, imagine somebody said that, oh, a person can't become a kafir unless they know that they become a kafir. You know, people then would just say whatever they want. They'd say whatever they want, whatever came to their mind. There would be no restrictions, right? They'd be very loose. They'd say things and then it'd be said to them, oh, but that's kufr, you can't say that. And then they just say, oh, well, I didn't know it was kufr, so I'm not a kafir. Can you imagine that? If someone insulted Allah, someone said Allah has a son, and then they were told, oh, you can't say that, this is kufr. And then they turned around and said, oh, well, I didn't know it was kufr, so I'm not a kafir because I didn't know. Then why would people learn? What would be the merit of religious knowledge then? According to that, it wouldn't have any merit. According to that, people wouldn't be encouraged to learn. This is contradictory to the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, where he praised knowledge, and he praised knowledge as a way to success, as a way to safety. Okay, so this hadith is a proof, the hadith about a person uttering a statement and because of it falling into hell. In it, the hadith, look what it says. It says, La yara biha ba'sa. A person does not see in that statement any problem. They didn't think it to be problematic at all. They didn't see anything wrong with that statement, but he falls because of it into the fire 70 years. The Prophet said that, alayhi salatu wassalam. If somebody now comes and says, oh, but you know, how can that be? Or if someone silly comes and says, well, how is that fair? Well, it is, because it is fair. The Prophet, he told us to learn. Allah encouraged us to learn. It's not a free ride in this world. It's not a free pass just because you write on your door, I am a Muslim, or you have on your status, I am a Muslim, or you put Jerusalem or Palestine on your status and you say, I am a Muslim. That's not enough without learning and implementing. That's not enough to be safe from hellfire just to say, I am a Muslim. There are major sins a person needs to avoid. There are obligations that a person needs to perform. Anyway, so that's one thing that we learn from this hadith. From this and this hadith, if you, subhanallah, want to really explain to somebody this issue of it's possible that a Muslim would fall out of Islam, you need to study this hadith. I urge you and urge you and urge you, open up a Word document, get this hadith down, and then look at the different bullet points that we're going through. This is how that person that you've been wanting to teach for so long, that family member, that friend, that loved one who you've been wanting to teach for so long about not saying loose statements and protecting them from the fire of hell. Okay, you show them the saying of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and say, look what's understood from it, this and this and this and this. A little bit like a PowerPoint presentation. You say, this is the hadith, and look at all these points. 1, 2, 3. This is what is understood from this hadith. And the Prophet, of course, did not lie. And the Prophet didn't speak without benefit, spoke with wisdom. So this one hadith, firstly, what it tells us is that to be judged as a kafir, you don't have to know the judgment. To be judged as a kafir, you don't have to know that you've become a kafir. Okay? In other words, you don't have to know that you become a kafir to actually become a kafir. It's not the case as some people might think that, well, if a person converts to Christianity, so they were a Muslim, and if they convert to Christianity, then we call them a kafir only because they intended to leave al-Islam. There are a couple of things to say about that. The first is that by leaving al-Islam, yes, they've become a kafir. That's true. But the second thing is that that's not the only situation in which a person becomes a non-Muslim. There are many situations in which people leave al-Islam and they don't even realize. And our Prophet told us that too, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, إن أقواما من أمتي يكفرون بالقرآن وهم لا يشعرون. He said there will be people who come after me that blaspheme, that commit kufr, disbelief against the Quran without even realizing. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Okay, the second matter is وَلَنْشِرَاحُ الصَّدْرِ. Second matter that we understand from this hadith is that for a person to fall out of Islam, okay, it's not a condition that they had to have been happy, and then if they were happy to leave Islam, then we say, yes, now they're a non-Muslim. Otherwise, no. A person might fall out of Islam even if they were sad, even if they were angry, even if they were not approving of the words that they said. Like, again, I give the example of alcohol. Many Muslims, they won't drink alcohol because it's an enormous sin, and they won't go near it at all. But they might say jokingly that alcohol is permissible for me, or alcohol is allowed, but they don't actually approve of that statement. They don't believe that it's allowed, but they've said that it's allowed, and they've belied the religion of al-Islam. They are judged as a kafir. So in that situation where a person, he doesn't like alcohol, but he says that it's permissible, or he says that it's sunnah, or something like that, right? He's not happy with that statement. He doesn't accept that statement, but he said it knowingly, not being forced. Usually it's when a person's joking, but he falls into kufr. Okay. Likewise, وَالْاعْتِقَادُ مَعْنَى اللَّفْظِ. Likewise, a person doesn't have to believe in what they are saying. Like the previous example also. Person doesn't have to believe that, in this example that I gave, that alcohol is permissible, but because they've said it whilst believing, that it is haram, but they've said that it's permissible, and they don't believe that it's permissible, still they commit kufr. Okay? Because that person that says that statement that lands them 70 years into hell, okay, they don't see any harm in that statement. They've said it. Might be a statement also that they don't believe in actually, but they've said it. They think it's just, harmless fun to say things like that, but it makes them fall into kufr. كما يقول كتاب فقه السنة. There is a book, a more recent book authored, known as فقه السنة. In this book it claims that in order to judge someone as a kafir, they have to, that person has to believe in the kufr words that they said, such that if they didn't believe in them, they're not judged as a kafir. And this is not true. If a person says Jesus is the Son of God, even if they don't believe that he is the Son of God, just by saying it and understanding it and so on, they become a kafir. This person then cannot come and say, well, I didn't even believe it. What, do you think I believe Jesus is the Son of God? They might say, oh, I'm a Muslim. And I was born into a Muslim household, Muslim parents. I pray Eid, I fast Ramadan. What, you think I believe Jesus is the Son of God? Yeah, but you said the statement, even if you don't believe it, you can't say a kufr statement. This is a blasphemous statement, a statement that is not accepted by Allah. A statement which you've said, and if you die without repenting properly by saying the Shahada, you will fall 70 years into hellfire. You will die as a kafir if you do not repent properly. Also, a fourth matter that we understand from this hadith is وَكَذَلِكَ لَا يُشْتَرَطُ فِي الْوُقُوعِ فِي الْكُفْرِ عَدَمُ الْغَضَبِ. Likewise, it is not a condition to fall into kufr to not be angry. In other words, it's not an excuse for a person to be angry. In other words, even if a person is angry and they said kufr, still they are judged as a kafir. Okay, if they were angry and they understood what they were saying, okay, whether they knew the judgment to be kufr or not, and it was actually kufr, okay, just because they were angry is not an excuse. Someone says something wrong. Like, you look at other examples, even if I don't talk about religious texts and proofs from the scholars. If I tell you, if someone came and they knew it was you, okay, it was in the middle of the day, they saw it was you, and uh, they were angry. Okay, they just had a fight with one of their siblings, an exchange. They came and they punched you in the face, and they broke your nose. If they came to you later and said, "Look, I was angry," okay, now would it be acceptable for them to accept that you will automatically pardon them just because they were angry? Of course not. Somebody deliberately smashed your car's window. Somebody deliberately snatched your phone from you and stamped on it and broke the screen. And then said to you, well, I'm sorry, I was angry. Or they said, brazen faced, they said, well, I was angry, so I'm not to blame. I was angry, so there's nothing on me. Quit whining. I was angry, so I'm excused. Stop crying. What are you complaining about? Do you know I was angry? Somebody burned your house down. And then they said, well, lucky I was angry, because if I wasn't angry and I did it, then I'd really be to blame. But I was angry, and it's internationally accepted, universally accepted, that if you're angry and you burn someone's house down, then you're excused. Rubbish. That's looking at it on a on a worldly level without looking at any of the religious rules. Nobody accepts that. That just because you're angry, you're automatically, just because you're angry, you're excused. No. Someone comes and smashes a bottle of alcohol over your head. Then when you come to, they said, ah, I was angry. Oh, I saw red again. Yeah. And then for them, for them to live in this la la land of thinking that, well, yeah, this guy's angry, so of course, yeah, I'm not to blame. I'm not to blame. To assume that, yeah, there's nothing on them. Yeah, here also, if somebody says something that is wrong and is kufr, and then they say, oh, but I was angry. Okay, and so what? What do you mean you were angry? It still counts. There are many examples like that. Someone says a statement to you. They say a statement to you. They say, "Here, this is yours. I don't know. Take this, or go and do such and such." And then you go and do it, and you cause a lot of damage. And then you're asked about it, and you say, "Oh well, that person told me to do it." They go to that person. He says, "Oh no, but I was angry." Ah, no, don't can blame me. Bulletproof. I'm angry. What's that about? So in the religion also, a person cannot say a kufr statement and then say, "Oh well, I was angry, so it doesn't count." No, where's that rule come from? From your pocket. That's not a rule in the religion. So it says, وَلَا يُشْتَرَطُ فِي الْوُقُوعِ فِي الْكُفُرِ. It's not a condition to fall into kufr to not be angry. Okay? كما أشار إلى ذلك النووي قال لو غضب رجل على ولده أو غلامه فضربه ضربا شديدا فقال له رجل ألست مسلما فقال لا متعمدا كفر وقاله غيره من حنفية وغيره. Just like an-Nawawi gestured towards that, saying, if a man was angry at his child or his servant, and so he hit him severely, he hit the child or the servant severely, and a man said to him, aren't you a Muslim? Meaning Muslims, they don't beat unjustly like that. And the man replied, no, he replied, I am not a Muslim. Purposefully, intentionally, he replied, no. He knows what he's saying. Kafara, he commits kufr, he becomes a non-Muslim. So it's not so. And Nawawi said, even if he was angry, he can't come and say, well, I was angry, so obviously that doesn't count. He can't come and say, oh, well, I didn't intend to leave al-Islam. Okay, and it still makes you a kafir. No one accepts that. No one accepts that, any of these excuses. Let's give an example, okay? Let's give a different example. So, a person murdered somebody, for example. And so when they got caught, they said, oh, well, I didn't know murder wasn't allowed in these lands. They're going to lock him up. They're not going to accept it. Okay? No one's going to say, oh, he didn't know. Give him a slap on the wrist and let him go have a milkshake or something like that. La. That's the first thing. Secondly, وَلَنْ شِرَاحُ الصَّدْرِ. No one's going to ask him, look, when you murdered, were you pleased with what you did or not? No one's going to say, well, if you weren't pleased, then we'll let you go. Because it's not like, you were happy doing it. No one's going to ask him that. They're going to lock him up. Also, they're not going to say, look, did you believe what you were doing was good? This one maybe doesn't work as well. But did you believe? Oh, no. Did you believe it was murder? Do you believe it was murder? If he says no, are they going to say, oh, well, okay, well, Our bad, off you go, roam the earth. Likewise, they won't say to him, oh, by any chance, were you angry? Like in court, imagine a court scenario. They won't say to him, by any chance, look, we can maybe get you off. Like, were you just say you were angry? Were you angry? Were you angry when you murdered him? And they give him a wink. Yes, say you were angry. He says, yes, I was. I was angry. I saw red. So they tell, the judge, yeah, the defendant is saying that he saw red and he was angry. So the judge says, "Oh well, why didn't you say that in the first place? Why didn't you tell he was? Why didn't you tell he was angry? You could have saved us all, the whole morning. All right, the case dismissed. You're a free man." That, no one accepts that. So why is it in the? Is people are lazy. Many people are lazy, and they don't want to be confined. They're confined in other areas of life. Okay, they are restricted in other areas of life at work. Okay, they have to clock in or clock out, or they have to show their times, or they have to um, be there at a certain time, or they have to do a certain task in a certain way. Lunch break is like 20 minutes. Okay, uh, and so on and so on and so on. There are so many restrictions that they feel like religion, according to them, it's in their mind, like religion should be peaceful. You should be able to do what you want. No, it's not like that. Where are you living? What kind of world are you living in? Many people that just don't understand, subhanAllah. Anyway, uh, many scholars said that, and Nawawi and others among Hanafis and others. Many others. Look at that. Fatawa Qadi Khan. In Fatawa Qadi Khan and other places. And in Nawawi, في الروضة, volume 10, page 68. He copied it from some Hanafis and he agreed with it. There, exactly Nawawi's words. وَلَوْ غَضِبَ عَلَى وَلَدِهِ. If someone's angry with their child or with their servant and hits him, a severe hitting, gives him a severe beating, and the man says, are you not a Muslim? And the man says, no, on purpose. He says, no, he commits kufr. Anyway, الشرح هذا معناه أن الإنسان قد يخرج من الإسلام من غير أن يقصد الخروج منه. This means that a person, might exit from al-Islam even without intending to exit from it. ومن غير أن يستبدل به دينا غيره. And he might exit al-Islam even without replacing it with another religion. Meaning a person might become a non-Muslim even if they didn't become a Christian or a Jew or a Hindu, or they might just become a non-Muslim without becoming a Jew or without becoming a Christian and so on. كما هو حال كثير ممن يدعون التصوف وهم يتخبطون في الكفر. أي أن الشخص الذي يتلفظ بالكفر الصريح يحكم عليه بالكفر سواء عرف أن هذا القول كفر أم لم يعرف. إنما الشرط معرفة معنى اللفظ. He said, this is the case, this is the situation of many people who claim to be amongst the Sufiya, the fake Sufis. They يتخبطون في الكفر. It's like they are flapping. They are flapping in kufr, like they fall into kufr. They're drowning in it, if you will, loosely translated. I.e., the person that utters kufr, the explicit kufr, meaning words that only have one kufr meaning, that's it. We judge that as kufr. Even, whether that person knew that this statement was kufr or he did not know. But what is the condition here? إنما الشرط, the condition is knowing the meaning of the statement. For example, a person says a statement in English, and they know what that statement means. But they, for example, let's say they don't know that it's a kufr statement, but they know what it means in English. They know what it means. They know what it constitutes. They know what it means, let's say. This person would be judged as a kafir, even if they didn't know that that statement is kufr. Like if somebody said, uh, if somebody said, Allah is a big light in the sky, or that Allah has a face or a big face. They know what that means. They know what big and face means. They know these words. They say Allah has a literal face, for example. They know what this means. So, because they understand the meaning of this statement, they're judged as a kafir, even if they didn't know that it's kufr, but they knew the meaning of the statement in that language. وكذلك ليس شرطا أن يعتقد بقلبه معنى هذا اللفظ، بل بمجرد أنه قال ذلك بإرادة وهو يفهم المعنى كفر وخرج من الإسلام. This is very important. Likewise, it is not a condition for us to judge him as a kafir. It's not a prerequisite or a condition that he believes in his heart the meanings of that statement. So imagine someone said for a joke then, or when they were angry, they said, I am Allah. And they don't actually believe that they're Allah, but they know what that statement means. They know that if somebody says, I am Allah, they know what that means. So they said it, but they don't believe in their heart that they are actually Allah. This is still kufr. Why? Because they knew the meaning of that statement in the language. Okay? Now, even if they didn't know that it makes them a non Muslim, it makes them a non Muslim. Why? The, the person may utter a statement that he deems harmless, as the hadith says. But that same statement would land the person 70 years into the depths of hell. 70 years. 70 years. يعني it is kufr. That's what it means. بل بمجرد, but rather just by saying that statement willingly while understanding its meaning, this person commits kufr and exits al-Islam. وقد شذ سيد سابق فإن له كتابا سماه فقه السنة يقول فيه في كتاب الردة إن المسلم لا يعتبر خارجا عن الإسلام ولا يحكم عليه بالردة إلا إذا انشرح صدره بالكفر واطمأن قلبه ودخل في دين غير الإسلام بالفعل. انتهى. This person, Sayyid, this is his name, Sayyid. It's not that he is actually someone honorable or a Sayyid. وقد شذ and indeed went astray a person known as Sayyid Sabiq. What do we have about him below here? من مواليد محافظة المنوفية مركز الباجر قرية. This person was born in Manufiyah in Egypt. What else can we say about him? Okay, he died at 85 in 1420 He died approximately 25, 26 years ago. He wrote a book called Fiqh as-Sunnah. This person, he went astray. Indeed, he has a book that he named Fiqh as-Sunnah. In this book, Sayyid Sabiq, he says in the chapter of apostasy, he says something wrong. What does Sayyid Sabiq say? Sayyid Sabiq says, right, so Sayyid Sabiq, he claimed, Innal Muslim, indeed the Muslim, is not considered to be outside of al-Islam, and he is not judged to be an apostate except if he is pleased with the kufr that comes from him, and his heart is at rest, at peace with that kufr, and he enters a religion, and he actually, بالفعل, he actually enters a religion other than Islam. He said, by these three conditions, a person becomes a kafir, and otherwise, no. And this is wrong. Look what he said. He said, there are three conditions for a person to become a non-Muslim. He said, you can't, he said, a person is not considered a kafir and is not judged as being an apostate except if three things happen. He said, if he says a kufr statement, he's pleased with it. That's one tick, if he's pleased with it. Secondly, he accepts it in his heart. And thirdly, he enters a religion other than Islam, like Christianity or Judaism. He said, then he would be judged as a kafir. But that's not true. Even if a person said a statement and they didn't accept it, they understood the kufr statement, but they didn't accept it in their heart, but they said it, but they become a kafir. Also, similar here. Also, even if they didn't enter another religion like Christianity or Judaism, they might still fall out of Islam. ويكفي في الرد عليه الحديث الذي رواه البخاري ومسلم والحديث الذي رواه الترمذي وقد مر ذكرهما آنفا، وموضع الشاهد فيه قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يرى بها بأسا، أي لأنه يدل على أن من الكلام ما يخرج الإنسان من الإسلام من غير فرق بين أن يكون منشرح البال أو أن يكون غير منشرح البال لذلك القول. And what is enough of a refutation of Sayyid Sabiq is the hadith that was narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, and the hadith that was narrated by At-Tirmidhi. Al-Bukhari and Muslim narrated the hadith like At-Tirmidhi, but they mentioned instead of falling 70 years into hell, they mentioned falling a distance that is greater than the distance between the east and the west. So this hadith and the one narrated by At-Tirmidhi is a proof, and it was mentioned earlier. And the place where the proof is in the hadith is a saying of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, la yara biha ba'sa, and the person that utters the statement does not see a problem with it, does not see a problem with the statement, i.e., this is a proof because it shows us that there is a type of speech that makes a person exit from al-Islam without there being any differentiation between a person being pleased or displeased with that statement. No difference. The person says Jesus is the Son of God, whether they are happy with it, that statement, or not. If they say it just like that and they understand it, then they commit kufr. So look what Sayyid Sabiq did. Sayyid Sabiq, he said what he said based on this ayah, and he misunderstood. This ayah in the Quran talks about the person who is forced to commit kufr, and how he would not be blamed with certain conditions, that he wouldn't be judged as a kafir with certain conditions. Sayyid Sabiq misunderstood this ayah, and Sayyid Sabiq ended up saying something wrong. He ended up saying, and this book is studied in many different places, that's why we're warning against it. Sayyid Sabiq ended up saying that, well, you're only judged as a kafir if you say a kufr statement and are pleased with it, among other conditions. So he said, if you say a kufr statement and you're not pleased with it, then this is not kufr. Wal-'iyadhu billah. And he understood that, or he misunderstood, that from an ayah of the Quran. Allah revealed, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان ولكن من شرح بالكفر صدرا فعليهم غضب من الله. Allah revealed in the Quran the judgment of the one who is forced to commit kufr. Allah revealed what means whoever, or if I read this in terms of tafsir, okay, man kafara billahi, right? Man kafara billahi فعليهم غضب من الله. Okay, that's one case. من كفر بالله فعليهم غضب من الله. Whoever commits kufr, right, then that person, he will, and he dies on that, in that state, he will be in hellfire forever without an end. He will taste the punishment, okay, in hellfire. That's one case. Second case, whoever says, for example, kufr min ba'di imanihi, after having been a believer, okay, then like we said, as the first case, he will be in hellfire with those things that we mentioned, except illa. What is the exception here? So there's a person who utters kufr. He's a believer, he was a believer, he's a believer, but he utters some kufr, then he will, there's an exception made in a scenario. What is that? Illa man ukriha. He will, if he was forced to commit kufr, and his heart, however, so on his tongue he was forced to commit kufr, but his heart was content with belief, right? So whoever says a kufr statement after having, yes, been a believer, but he was forced. They said to him, say Jesus is the Son of God, or we are going to shoot you in the head. And they put a gun to his head. They load a gun and put it to his head. So he's threatened with death, imminent death. Here, because he's forced and he believes they're going to carry out that threat, if he says the exact kufr statement that they want him to say, and in his heart, he doesn't like that kufr. So again, they say to him, they load up a gun, they put it to his head and say to him, say Jesus is the Son of God. Otherwise, we're going to kill you. And he believes in his heart that, oh, they're going to kill me. And in his heart, he hates kufr. He hates this statement. If he says this statement, then he is not judged as a kafir. Why? Because he was forced with death, while his heart was mutma'in bil iman. His heart, it was content with belief. Such a person is not judged as a kafir. Remember what I said, he's threatened with death. With death. Not that they say to him, oh, commit kufr or we're going to chop your finger off. No, because chopping a finger off, usually that it doesn't lead to death. So, or they say to him, say Jesus is the Son of God, or we will harm your mother. But here he's not allowed to say that kufr statement, because the exception here is if he is threatened, his life is threatened, not his mom's, not his dad's, not his sons or daughters. No. Here, Allah revealed if this person himself, his own life, they threaten his life, then in certain situations, yes, he can say the kufr statement, but in his heart he hates it. This person is a Muslim. Okay? Sayyid Sabiq misunderstood this. Sayyid Sabiq, he said, he didn't understand this to be about the person who was forced or coerced. He generalized. He said anybody. If anybody says a statement on their tongue, ولكن but وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان, he said, but their heart is content with belief. اطمأن قلبه. He said, Sayyid Sabiq, if anybody says a kufr statement, but their heart is content with belief, then they, as long as they weren't pleased with it, then this is not kufr. He misunderstood the ayah. إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان ولكن من شرح بالكفر صدرا. Allah revealed, but if there's a person who is forced to say kufr, let's say, they threaten his life, they threaten him, he believes it's going to happen, so he says the kufr statement, and in his heart he's actually happy that he's saying the kufr statement. He accepts that. He's overjoyed that he's saying kufr. He accepts this kufr. He believes in this kufr. Of course, this person is a kafir. فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. So it says, وَلَيْسَ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, هذه الآية ليس فيه دليل على ما ادعاه السيد سابق. This ayah does not contain a proof. This ayah is not a proof of what Sayyid Sabiq claimed. لما؟ لأن هذا ورد في المكره على كلمة الكفر. This ayah was revealed about the one who is forced to utter the kufr statement. فإنه لا يكفر إن كان نطقه بالكفر بدون انشراح صدر لذلك الكفر. For indeed, the person who is forced does not commit kufr if his utterance of the kufr was without acceptance. Without acceptance. He was forced, but in his heart he didn't accept it. A person could be forced to say something, but you can't force the heart. Okay, so he didn't feel joy at saying the kufr. He wasn't happy with the kufr statement. وإنما يكفر هذا المكره نعم المكره يكفر أكيد. وإنما يكفر هذا المكره إن انشرح صدره حالة النطق بالكفر لما قاله من الكفر. Rather, the one being forced, if he's pleased with the kufr while saying it, then he commits kufr. كما جاء عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال لعمار بن ياسر. Like when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Ammar ibn Yasir, like when the Prophet said to Ammar ibn Yasir, هل كنت شارحا صدرك حين قلت ما قلت أم لا? Because the people, Quraysh in Mecca, they forced Ammar ibn Yasir radiyallahu anhu. They forced him. They threatened him with death. They killed his mother, Lady Sumayya radiyallahu anha. And Yasir radiyallahu anhu, the first martyrs in this nation. So they threatened him to kill him. They said, say a particular statement. So he said it, fearing that they would kill him there and then if he didn't say it. So he said it, a kufr statement. So he came to the Prophet ﷺ asking about his judgment. So the Prophet said, were you pleased when you said it? هل كنت شارحا صدرك? Literally about his chest. Was your chest like wide? Were you pleased that you were you pleased when you said what you said or not? فقال لا. He said, no, I was not pleased. So the Prophet ﷺ said to him, in عادوا لك فعد. Right? He said to him what means that he clarified for him that this is not kufr on you because you were forced. رواه الإمام ابن المنذر في كتابه الإشراف. Ibn al-Munzir narrated this in his book Al-Ishraf. فحرف هذا الرجل سيد سابق كلام الله تعالى وقال ما لم يقله عالم قط. This person, Sayyid Sabiq, he perverted what was revealed by Allah Ta'ala. And he said what no scholar said. I'm not going to say no scholar before him. Well, he wasn't a scholar, but yeah, what no scholar said. No scholar said that. Ajaib wa gharaib. Ajib. Okay. So now let's talk about the different types of exiting Islam. In other words, apostasy. In other words, apostasy. Just give me a second. يا رب. قال المؤلف رحمه الله: والردة ثلاثة أقسام كما قسمها النووي وغيره من شافعية وحنفية وغيرهم: اعتقادات وأفعال وأقوال، وكل يتشعب شعبا كثيرة. The author said, رحمه الله, apostasy is split into three categories, just like Al-Hafiz al-Nawawi and others among the Shafi'is and the Hanafis and others split them. Beliefs, actions, doings, and sayings. And all of them branch off into many branches. Ash-sharhu. So these are three things, these are three types of things that make a person a non-Muslim. Sayings, and there are millions. And also there are actions that make people non-Muslims, and beliefs. Okay, so there's three categories. Each category has can have many subcategories underneath it. الردة هي قطع الإسلام. Okay, so yeah. Like An-Nawawi said, he said الردة, apostasy, is the cutting of al-Islam. Okay, it is to stop the judgment of al-Islam being upon oneself. So one was a Muslim, then them being judged as a Muslim stopped. وتحصل تارة بالقول وتارة بالفعل وتارة بالاعتقاد كما نص على ذلك الشافعية والحنفية والمالكية والحنابلة. And a ridda, apostasy, happens sometimes by saying, sometimes by an action, and sometimes with a belief. just as was mentioned explicitly, without a shadow of a doubt, by the Shafi'is, the Hanafis, the Malikis, and the Hanabila, the Hanbalis, the Fudala ul Hanabila, the honorable among the Hanbalis. So 2, 3, 4, and 5, 7. Look. So Ash-Sharbini, he mentions that, you see, uh, that's the Shafi'is. Ibn Abidin, he mentions that, that's the Hanafis. Ad-Dusuqi, that's the Malikis. And Al-Buhuti mentions that also, according to the Hanbalis. Just some reference, just some references. Mhm. وقد استدلوا على هذا التقسيم بالقرآن الكريم. And they used, these scholars of the four schools, they used as proofs for these three different Subhanallah. I realized that we had gone. Subhanallah. I didn't realize that it had stopped. How long was I out for? If someone can just let me know. How long was I not here for?
Sheikh, I didn't hear anything since the beginning of the lesson.
Oh, really? MashaAllah. Very interesting. Okay. Someone said around 10 minutes,
Around 10.
maybe. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Okay. Well, we'll stop here, inshallah. I'll repeat 12 minutes. Okay. Yeah, as far as I was concerned, everything was okay. Okay, subhanallah. We'll stop here for now then, and we will repeat. I'll check where the recording is up to, and we'll start from there, inshallah ta'ala. MashaAllah. Okay. Barakallahu fikum. Let's say La ilaha illallah and as-salah ala nabi. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.